No. No. Nice. Hey, what's up guys, it's Darius, and flagship smartphones have gotten really good, but also really expensive. But do you really have to spend that much to get a good phone? Well, luckily no. There are a bunch of good, affordable smartphones. I would consider affordable or budget below $300, but usually there's one area with them that's not quite up to par, like the camera or the software. Now I think I found the perfect budget phone, and it is the Xiaomi Mi A1. And what's so interesting about this phone is that it's a collaboration between Xiaomi and Google under the Android One program. First of all, I want to thank GearBest for sending it out. Click the link in the description to find out the most up-to-date prices. Usually it's around $230 to $250 US. Hardware-wise, it is identical to the Xiaomi Mi 5X, however, it is running stock Android and not Xiaomi's Mi UI, which I'm really not a fan of. So let's have a look at that hardware. There's no point denying it, it really looks like an iPhone 7 or a OnePlus 5, just without the fingerprint scanner on the front. I don't really mind it and I think it looks good, but it's not very original. It also comes in 3 different colors: black, gold, and rose gold. It has no fancy bezel-less design or a slimmer aspect ratio, but I think it has all the essentials, and with such a low price point, the hardware is really good. It has a full metal build, complete with USB-C, a headphone jack, and a mono speaker on the bottom, which isn't really worse than on a phone that costs more than twice as much. There's even a dual SIM slot, which doubles as a micro SD card slot, so you can extend the generous 64 GB of internal storage. The buttons are very good, not perfectly tactile, but it's fine. The fingerprint scanner is on the back, and it's really fast. There's also a small camera hump, which is kind of annoying, but it's not that big of a deal. The hardware overall is very well constructed, maybe not $1,000 well, but for its price it's very good. The only point where you notice it's not that expensive is the back. When you knock on it, it's a little loose, but it's fine. The only other complaint I would have is it has no IP rating. Now the in-hand feel is very good, however it's extremely slippery and I've dropped it multiple times already. The back also attracts some fingerprints and smudges, but it's better than on a glass back phone. The 1080p LCD panel is very nice. It's very sharp and crisp with good viewing angles and not super saturated colors, but they look nice. It doesn't get super bright, but it's perfectly usable. Now let's get to the most interesting part of the phone, the software. It runs stock Android Nougat, and they're promising an update to Oreo later this year. We'll have to see if they keep that promise. I really like Xiaomi devices, they have a great value, but I'm not a fan of Mi UI, so the combination of Xiaomi hardware with Google's stock Android is great. It's basically untouched Android, just with 2 apps by Xiaomi, a feedback app and a Mi remote, because it is equipped with an IR blaster, which is pretty rare nowadays. One minor aspect, it takes full advantage of the screen by moving the navigation keys onto the large chin. For some reason they're reversed, but that doesn't bother me. Now performance was very fluid. There were some minor hiccups, but very few of them, and it performs like a phone that could cost twice as much. 2 things I have to add. It booted kind of slow, which was no big deal, but just something to mention, and Wi-Fi connectivity was very good. For example, in places where I barely or didn't really have Wi-Fi on my Pixel XL, the Xiaomi had no problems at all. Now battery life was also really impressive. It lasted me through every single day, no matter how much I used it, usually with 25 or 30% left, if not more. It can definitely last you 1.5 or 2 days with lighter usage. For example, right now, it's noon and it's at 29%, and the last time I charged it was overnight the night before, so that's really impressive. It does not support wireless charging, It does technically support fast charging, but it wasn't very quick in my testing. Now so far, it sounds like an amazing smartphone for the price, and it really is. I'm used to using much more expensive smartphones. Before I used the Pixel XL, and this feels no worse, really. I mean, I don't notice that it's a budget phone, and that means a lot. And the only point we're still missing is the camera, and this is the only area where I'd say it's not quite up to par with higher end phones. On paper, it's great. It has two 12 megapixel sensors, one regular lens and one tele lens. In good lighting, both of them produce very sharp and detailed images. The colors aren't super saturated, but fairly accurate, and the dynamic range is also pretty good. There's also an HDR mode, which can enhance the images you take, however it is quite slow. The addition of a secondary tele lens is very nice and it's quite convenient. In lower light situations, the secondary lens is disabled due to its smaller aperture, which took me quite a while to figure that out. The camera, however, is definitely not perfect. The portrait mode, for example, really doesn't work well. Sometimes it doesn't work at all and it just blurs everything without detecting a subject. And other times, edge detection is very bad and it looks pretty fake. The focus sadly was sometimes hit or miss, but it was generally very fast when it did manage to get the focus right. In low light, the camera sadly falls a little apart. There's no OIS, which is not helpful in this case, and images lose a lot of detail and also saturation. Now it does shoot 4K video, however it is pretty bad. It looks over sharp, stabilization is decent, but the audio is terrible and it sounds completely muffled. Here, have a listen. Maybe you can hear some drilling in the background, but yeah, I think the audio is just terrible. You can probably not hear much. Now this sounds really bad, like the camera is terrible, but I am comparing it to much more expensive phones, and in good lighting you can really get some nice shots with it. The front-facing camera is decent, however there's quite a bit of softening going on. Thank you guys for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like and comment down below. I was really impressed with this phone. I can really recommend it to anyone, especially at that price point. If you want to pick one up, make sure to use the link down below. And GearBest. Yeah. See you in the next one. Bye.